Hello, this is Treasure Joe, and I wasn't intending to make this video, at least not yet. I just want to document some progress I made. Earlier I had made like a transmitter script, which that isn't really going to be released because there are a lot of other things. This is just made for a special project. But this is code that I made for a motor sequencer. And so far as I can tell, the linear logic is fine, which is good enough for me to release with, but I do need to make sure that the continuous logic for servos also works, because the way that works is that I have to like determine direction of travel based on like the quadrants and displacements of the two things of the angles relative to their quadrants, and yeah, that is quite complicated. But it's basically well, it's just basic. What I have here though, I had to fix some broken logic, but I made a motor controller that is easy enough to set up and will execute a sequence based on like what it reads each time, like during training. So I will show you this real quick, just documentation purposes. Start. I'm not using the timers, I'm using a script. And it is actually like pausing slightly between some of the steps because I do not have precision mode turned on in the script. So what I'm going to do is turn precision mode on to make it a little more, I don't know, make it work a little bit better. So if I go to, let's say, the pistons, as you can see, they are changing their settings. Servos are doing all of this, and this, if I go to like rotor 0, you can see its angles changing. And this is like extremely simple. This is not like the kind of sequence you really want it to be doing, because this is made for like a case where you want to move from one point to another point to another point, rather than just moving between 2 points. But just to like show it works, and to prove to myself that this prototype works, I've loaded it up into this really super simple walker. And so yeah, like, so basically when you train it, it stores a list of sequences, which is basically just a struct that holds lists of like servos, pistons, and motors, which motors is what I'm calling like continuous servos. However, a continuous servo is a lot different. Like a continuous servo, you have to add continuous to the name of your rotor, and it'll treat it continuously. I don't know if that code works yet, but I wouldn't be too bummed if it didn't work. But as you can see, it's going through this loop, and it's like it's coming up with a list of the different things that need to move and change, and this is the number of ticks it's waiting out of the number of ticks that it's set to wait. So it could, for example, put like an artificial delay if I wanted. Let me stop you, because you really... yeah. And yeah, it will continue until it reaches the point where it can stop, which is basically the end of the loop. One of the big things I want to do, though, is come up with ways to make complicated interaction between sequences. So, like for things like Mechs and things, I want to be able to, for example, have like breakpoints and things, and, well, not necessarily breakpoints, but just like a way to exit out of a loop sequence early and execute a different loop sequence, and I would have that integrated into the motor controller, because as you know, like switching between sequences is actually kind of important if you want to like steer and things. So you want to be able to store and use different animations basically, and like say you make a factory, you might want to have like different processes for making different things. So there are a few things I need to work on. One thing is I need a way to store the data in the programmable block. Like I need to be able to encode and read the sequence. And at the very least, So, I mean, we have all this script, and I do believe I do have, like, it's commented out, but where's my save? It's public string store, and it's a list sequence, and basically this is the save function. My plan is to, it creates a string, basically, and encodes all the information, and then retrieve is going to basically do the converse of that, and inverse or converse? I guess inverse? And go and retrieve the data from a string. And the idea is that I'm just going to put this string in the custom data. Okay, I am back, and I had managed to store a sequence in the custom data. I have yet to actually manage to extract that information back into the list, but for now I'm just happy it's stored. I'm going to just save this because what's likely going to happen is something's going to explode here. But this is literally what I recorded. And I have it wait a second before it starts the next thing. So it's doing a little prance. That's literally all I want. I have returned. And I have something awesome to show you. Now there is like something to note. I did manage to get a working version of the script, and I will even demonstrate how it works. I have managed to actually get the sequencer. As you can see, I do have stuff in the custom data field of that programmable block. Problem is that I ran into this bug. Basically what kept happening was that since I was like, that program keeps getting called before all the before all the blocks get initialized, so it wasn't able to like get the programmable block, or maybe it was the servos? I don't know, but it's basically a race condition in the code. I solved this by basically putting a first run argument in the main computer. So yeah. So what I'm going to do is, I have updated this to work with a sequence. If I recompile this, yeah, that's actually not going to work, is it? That's actually interesting. Because that means that it has to have something in the custom data field in order to work. I'm going to have to patch that. Because that's not really acceptable. I need to be able to run it from scratch. But yeah, anyway, if I go and load the custom data and recompile it, it'll actually show like it has everything like set. If I hit run, yeah, it's working. What should happen is if I copy this, so that's a new entity, I should be able to look into the programmable block. There's no error or anything. If I hit recompile, it's going to recompile properly. It's all done by the programmable block. And if we take a look, no, that's the wrong one. As you can see, it's actually like updating and checking to see if it's like actually reached its conditions before it starts moving. I'm going to tell it to stop, although I could just as easily just recompile the script and it would return to its proper walking gait. Unlike timers, it wouldn't get desynchronized, which is a huge, huge boon to this. I couldn't resist. I mean, come on. This ain't my first rodeo, but it is my first rodeo with mecha spider things. Okay. It is about time. I had finally cracked multi-sequence support. So I'm just going to show you something that you probably wouldn't really notice, but who cares? If I just hit stop, it stops. It's also entering a neutral position. If I hit start, it starts moving in its normal position. So, and it can enter the neutral position from any position that it's in. And it can walk forward. Now, I can also, I do technically have the settings to, so I can just start idle if I wanted. And I can tell it to reverse. I can tell it to go forward. Oh, well that doesn't actually work. It won't actually execute. Also, sorry for the noise there. But as you can see, it's actually moving forward. I'm going to set it to idle just so that it's quiet again. As you can see, I'm quite satisfied with this. If we look here, you can't really see. Like, I don't have like any data encapsulation going on. What I have is I have forward and reverse and idle. And I have 9 different entries here. And what I did was I created metadata that handled the forward, reverse, and idle. Like, basically, it defines a name for the loop, like for the sequence, the like where the sequence actually is. So forward is 0 through 3, which means 0, 1, 2, 3. So these 4 are all my forward sequence. And then it's defining 4 through 7, which would be these. That's my reverse segment. And then this is idle, which is just single length. And that's 8 and 8. And basically, these just define where the loops begin and end, and by using flow control and exploiting it using this metadata header that I created, I can define how it actually like approaches the loops. So I can have lists of various things, and that works. Of course, I just noticed an error here. I actually noticed a pretty big error. This isn't intentional. It doesn't seem to be breaking anything. But I am going to have to fix that, because what's going on here is that when I'm adding additional sequences, it's also accidentally adding this to each one. And I guess this doesn't really cause any harm. I mean, I'm guessing. But it is like creating an empty object that just doesn't do anything. So I will like fix that. That's a bug. That can be fixed easily. And also say start forwards, forward 1. And I can tell it to, or like start forward 3. It's going to, like, I can tell it to enter a particular part. Like, that's basically an offset. If I go to like reverse, like it's basically telling it to run a particular offset. Stop. And yeah, it's waiting for the loop to complete, but start. So yeah, as you can see here, I have managed to get it to work. Metadata is actually a little messy, and again, like, things don't seem to be broken, because what it's doing is it's basically, it has to check to see. I have a little bit of error checking in here, where it checks for the servo entry just to be sure. And so it's not finding servo here. And since this part doesn't contain servo, it doesn't actually do anything there. So if I were to remove each one of these, it would work the same, especially since this first one worked. But having this doesn't break it either. It just causes it to loop unnecessarily. I will, like, again, like, add some error checking here, because that isn't really acceptable. Another thing I can do is, we don't actually need this, so Delete. Error. Define the name of the sequence you want to delete. Delete reverse. There, that's broken. That's not ideal. I will find a way to fix that, and that's probably going to be the next thing I do, is I'm going to go and update the code to get rid of these errors. So I will see you once I have that. The next thing I'm going to try, also yeah, you might have noticed that, yeah, I had some adventures with Clang. I'm going to add basically some factory-friendly things, like having doors and welders and grinders added to the sequence list. And I'm probably going to find clever ways to handle doors so that you could technically make things even more precise, but most people are not going to use that feature. It's just going to be a little caveat of the system that makes it even more precise when you want it to be. So I will see you then. Okay, I am back one last time. I had managed to actually do it, and it was actually not that hard to fix. So what I managed to do was... oh, that's the wrong thing. That's the antenna. So basically, if I were to run this the first time, it's going to initialize, but if I run it the second time, error, please define the name of the sequence you want to delete. So let's say I wanted to delete, and let me just verify. This is a reflection of what's actually stored here. And so far we have forward, reverse, and idle. So these four we want to get rid of because we don't need reverse. So if I say delete reverse, successfully deleted reverse, I need to change that to capitalize. Now we only have forward and idle. If we in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it from here. If I hit this, we are still moving forward. If I hit this, that's actually, I know why, I think. Control panel, let me see this. Yeah, this is still off. Yeah, this is still broken. What I need is to actually get it to rewrite idle. So that's another error that I need to fix. I need it to actually rewrite all of the indexes after that. I need it to ripple through all of the other items and fix it, because this actually should be 4, because I removed 4 indexes. Now if I recompile and run this, I can't actually stop it, I think. No? Wait a second. This is a problem. Okay, so I'm seeing something here. There's a lot more going wrong here. So this is actually the same as step. So basically, that's okay. I know what's going on here. I made a slight error here, and I can fix this right now, actually, because I know exactly what I did wrong here. So I just need to find the one where I delete data. So I'm going to calculate the length here. Less than and equals end, which should actually work, and I can do a quick test here. I haven't changed all too much. So I didn't actually expect to be doing this. So if I go to custom data, I can, let me just go and Control-Alt, Control-Copy from this thing where I'm temporarily storing everything. Control-Alt, Control-Paste. And then if I say delete reverse, I get an argument out of range, except I don't know why this happens, actually. I could try like n less than n plus 1 and then see if that works. But right now it isn't actually deleting the last sequence. So delete. That's actually kind of weird. This is actually a really complex problem, and I'm not going to bore you with it. I'm going to go through and find the bug and then fix it. So see you then. So, I have done a little bit of code work after taking quite a bit of a break. It has been a little while. And now I want to demonstrate something. Pretty cool. I am going to say I did fix that error where it would fail to initialize. I don't know if I mentioned that before since it's been a while, since the last cut. But yeah, so the roamers all work the way they should, and the and what you see before you is a specifically designed robot to test a new function that I added, which is the ability to use and respond to a landing gear. And I'll get into a little more detail. Now, of course, I do kind of want to just run it from here so that we can like see the prompt. So I can like go there. Basically, what I've set this to do, and I'll show it here in the custom data. We just have one thing, and it's basically just adding a whole bunch of motor. Like it's controlling the things as motors and using landing gear. And this is also the first time I've actually shown it using the motor. What this basically is going to do is it's going to drive forward until it detects the block that's going to reverse. Or it's not actually going to connect. What a bother. Anyway. So this thing is going to attach any moment now, and upon attaching, it then enters into a separate state. Now it is just waiting for a set amount of time as it reverses, and then it's going to drop it and back off for a short amount of time, and for about 2 seconds, and then it's going to wait about 800 seconds. Well, 800, no, it's not 800 seconds, but yeah, it's a bit of time, and then it repeats the same thing. So basically what happens is that this proves that the code that I wrote actually works, because it is properly manipulating the landing gear. So if we go here, it's set to auto lock. It'll attempt to lock, but it's set to auto lock, which means that it's going to reverse. Now, a cool thing is that I set this up specifically to eliminate one possible case where it could break. by just saying like, okay, like for example, you don't want to worry about waiting for the landing gear if you're detaching from something, because that's 100% going to happen. Unless you have auto lock, in which case then it could get messy. But obviously in this, I just disabled auto lock for when it detaches. It's going to automatically, like it's not going to have a name. Also, what is going on here? What in the world? This isn't scripted. Oh my god, they're fighting over it. Okay guys, this wasn't scripted. I honestly didn't expect this drone to come and steal the block away. This was completely on accident. And now it's just going to like get stuck. Yeah, the other one stole it. Oh no. Oh no, what's going to happen? Oh my god. What am I witnessing? Oh my god, they flipped themselves. So they got into a fight over the block. This stays in the cut. I didn't expect this to happen. Like, as I was talking too. But yeah, basically, now they're going to forever be like trying to go for the block, and it's going to keep running until the program timer. Oh! I bumped into it. I may have bumped into it. That is kind of amusing. Kind of want to do it again. Oh, fixed it. Kind of. Now it's... That's extremely inappropriate. Like... Oh, what is this? Oh my god. What the heck? Oh my god! So this is actually kind of perfect. I can't believe this. Anyway, yep, that's it works pretty fine. I'll see you in the next cut. Okay, I am back with a new demonstration. Let me just get rid of that, and we'll just hit test here, and I'll talk as you go. As you can see, I'm reading off at the projector here. So I am going to place a block, and it's actually going to read that and extend. Now if I weld these two and then grind this, because I don't actually want it to read this as being full, it stopped because I basically set up this code in a special way to read if a terminal block gets ground, like isn't fully built. And doing that is a good way to pretty much guarantee that the entire thing gets built properly. So like, or at the very least it's perfectly functional when it leaves, because it's always going to have the armor blocks placed down, and it's always going to have fully built components. So let me just build that back up. You'll see in a moment. Yep, now it's moving. So yeah, like I had to do a little bit of witchcraft. I would show it on screen, but I have been really bad about leaving that screen up, so I won't. But basically I wound up having to pass the grid terminal into the motor controller class, which is not a good thing. Like basically every time like at the beginning of the program, I'm updating that variable, so it is keeping an accurate track of what blocks are where. So as you can see, this light wasn't on before, it turned on. There isn't any lights group or anything. and I didn't put the light in the generics group, so it couldn't possibly have been triggered by anything other than this timer block, which is the timer block. So if I go here and look, it's like, here it is, it's assigned. Basically all it does is run a trigger now on the timer block, and it will allow you to put it in like timer chains. I also have like the connected like the programmable block here. That's for if you want to like have like notify another programmable block that it's run, like that it has finished. Like I'll send a message to the other block saying finished, and obviously that allows you to kind of get the two to interact, so you can like queue things and have it wait for it to finish. Obviously this won't work with loops. Speaking of which, I did actually make loops separate. In the metadata, there's now like an extra boolean, and that's just to define whether it loops or not. If we go here, remember and exit, let's go to the custom data. Like this says false, that means that it's not going to loop. Now if I'm let's go to, I don't know. Let's go to this version of the roamer that I had made that is pilotable. Let's take a look at the programmable block. So here forward is true because it's a loop. It's like there's quite a bit here. There's quite a bit here. Anyway, I may as well goof off a little. So yeah, I can move forward if I want, and also move backwards. I can steer by turning the mouse. I gotta be a little careful or it'll flip. 3 is obviously going to put it in a neutral state. 4 causes side strafe left. And 5 is causing it to side strafe right. And then my favorite, the jump button. Not at all practical because like a space engineer is going to stay in place, and even if I'm like walking forward, that's like it's not going to carry much momentum with it. But hey, it works, and so I'm happy. Anyway, there's one other thing. There it is. Just kind of want you to remember this thing. Flew way too close to that. So if I run this to start production, as you can see, it's able to build relatively quickly. I decided to see what I could do if I removed all but like Tim's timer, and this is the results. So if the instant that it builds, it's going to, like, it extends, and then the grinder takes it off. The grinder needs to be timed a little better, but otherwise it works pretty well using the thing there. Of course, I didn't set it to be equal or anything, so in the code for the projector, it's checking to see if it has the correct amount of blocks or more. It's not trying to check if there are less or equal, so that basically means that it's just not going to like I won't be able to use the project. Like, I'm not going to be able to wait until the thing gets detached before I advance to the next stage. I have to actually have a timer for grinding it off, but that's okay. Another thing is I could, for example, finish the sequence interface with another computer and have that computer like activate a merge block that like spawns with it. But that's obviously an issue because merge blocks are kind of big on small ships. So yeah, just kind of run this one last time. It's like this is done with no timers. I'd say it does pretty well. I may as well mention something actually. I think it's relevant. I actually don't know if I said this before. I may be repeating myself, in which case I'm just gonna mute myself. Okay, so when I was programming this, I actually put forward in as the first sequence, and then idle, but I had like forgotten a step in forward, so what I did was I wound up adding that extra step to forward, and it deleted the original and replaced it with this one, which is why it is behind idle. Like, I've tested this, it actually works fine. If you like train something of the same name, all it does is add to it. If you want to overwrite it, you want to delete it first. But if you don't delete it first, then you can just make the sequence longer. So yeah, I'm quite satisfied with how this code turned out, and expect to see it on the workshop sometime soon. I have no idea for sure if I'll have to work through any kind of bugs. I haven't found any that were crippling or anything. And I'm sure that I'm going to make a tutorial for it by the time I release it too. So this video is kind of like a developmental documentary, and then I'm actually going to go into the way the blocks work. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to see you, I guess, in the next video.